Good evening. How are you tonight? Good? Welcome to our Wow Wednesday, and we greet you in the name of all that is good, all that is holy, and all that is Spiritual Life Center. And so we are so grateful for you to be here tonight, and I would like to introduce Day, and she's going to offer our opening prayer.
Thank you. So, this is on, right? Yes, it is. So let us take a moment to breathe into our hearts, bring our energy, our attention, our focus into the being that we are, and allow ourselves to center here as we join our energies and our love together for this moment of having Spirit touch us gently, surround us in a loving way, and opening our hearts and our minds and our experiences to learning maybe some new ways to approach the world. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Day. So I want to just have a few quick announcements before we get into our program. I want to let you know that the chaplains offer a healing circle in the annex directly after the service, so you can join them there and get a nice healing moment with them. We also have newcomer cards, and they are located where? With Bill in the back. Are there any newcomers here tonight? Okay. Well, if you'd like to fill out a card, what will happen is then you can sign up for the newsletter if you're not signed up for that, and just help you get more connected. So we welcome you to do that. I want to let you know about our Summer Splash event that's coming up on July 13th. This is going to be our summer party that we're going to have with the band River Tribe, and we're going to have raffle prizes, which you've been hearing about, some really great fun travel opportunities, and it is also a way for us to honor our guests of honor, former and founding music minister of Spiritual Life Center, Richard Burdick, and his wife, Susie. So that's going to be a very fun event. That's coming up on Friday, July 13th. We do have openings for some volunteer opportunities for the Summer Splash, and also for our cleanup day that's coming up June 30th. So this is an early call for volunteers if you'd like to get involved with that. Also, the gala is coming up, so you can get connected with some fun volunteer opportunities with that. And next week on the Wow Wednesday, it will be yours truly, Paula Mandela, Director of Music and Arts Ministry at Spiritual Life Center. I'm going to do a little sharing about my journey with the concept and ideas of head, heart, and hands, how that teaching has woven through specific ways in my life, through the being introduced to the Great Invocation and the Waldorf education motto and Spiritual Life Center's mission statement. So I'll unpack that a little bit, and we should have a fun evening. I hope you'll join us for that. As usual, salad is at 6, and the program is at 7. So we'll look forward to seeing you next week as well. Now I have the pleasure and honor of of introducing our speaker tonight, and that is our very own Reverend Deborah Phillips. She is an ordained New Thought minister, teacher, and writer. Her passion is spiritual exploration, the process of discovering one's personal relationship with the divine. She's been studying metaphysics for over 40 years, primarily with unity religious science framework, but her interests are far-ranging when it comes to spirituality. She is the director of our Wednesday Wow program and facilitates a spiritual exploration discussion group on Thursday mornings from 10 to 11:30 here at SLC. She often participates in Sunday services, offering meditations geared to leading participants into a personal experience with the divine. Tonight, she offers insight into the deeply misunderstood teachings about using denial and affirmation. please welcome Reverend Deborah Phillips.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you for not making me just do all that and then stand here and introduce myself.
I just had to do it for myself.
Well, but I'll introduce you next week, so we'll be even. Well, welcome and thank you for coming tonight. The reason I talk about this subject is I have had, probably once a month for the last few years, someone will come up to me and they say, I just figured it out. Denial doesn't mean what I thought it did. It means something completely different. And these people go off in absolute ecstasy because they finally figured it out. And I realize that if this is happening like once, maybe I just talk about it and maybe more people would get it. So how many people have even heard of the process of doing affirmations and denials? Okay, now you notice I said affirmation and denial, and really it's denial and affirmation. And how many people, when they hear the word denial, go a whole different direction with it? Okay, even though those of you who are using it, right? Because what we think of is when I'm denying something, I'm pretending like it's not there. I'm going to ignore it. And it is so common that what people do is they just start using affirmations, and they don't use anything else. And there's a lot of reasons why you would want to actually incorporate denials into your process, because it can really make a difference. So first of all, denial does not mean closing your eyes, covering your ears, and going la 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 la. That's not what it means. It doesn't mean that you're going to pretend like nothing is there. A fact is a fact. A circumstance is a circumstance, right? So what are you going to do about it? Well, one of the things that you can do is start changing your mind about things. And, I have this wonderful quote from Charles and Cora Fillmore. It was really interesting, not too long, just as an aside. Somebody came up to me with a book and said, there's a typo in this book. It says Charles and Cora Fillmore. And I said, well, Myrtle died and he remarried. They went, oh, okay. So this is what brings us out of magical thinking. And magical thinking is just thinking that things are going to happen without doing anything. And what is the most prevalent kind of magical thinking? Would that possibly be expecting to win the lottery without buying a ticket? We do that all the time. When I win the lottery, do you ever buy tickets? No. And so I just, that is magical thinking, expecting something to happen when you're not doing anything about it. So this is what comes out of Teach Us to Pray from Charles and Cora Fillmore. There is an idea quite prevalent in the public mind that we teach a system of thought and word juggling, that anyone, anywhere can have any and everything by merely repeating over and over certain magic words. It is true that words have magic in them, and very often the result of the mental imagery evoked by them is so startling as to suggest Aladdin and his lamp. However, a comprehension of the whole philosophy reveals a well-balanced set of principles upon which it all rests. So, in our case, and the way we teach this is a denial is essentially saying, I don't have to keep this. I recognize it, I acknowledge it, but I don't have to keep it. And there's some examples by Emma Curtis Hopkins. Now, Emma Curtis Hopkins was the teacher who taught the Fillmores, Ernest Holmes of Religious Science, the people who founded divine science, and quite a few of the other people who founded different metaphysical teachings in the early 1900s. And so she is considered the teacher of teachers. She never founded her own group. She just taught people. And these are some examples. Now, I know I'm giving you this quickly, but there's some stuff written on that piece of paper I gave you. So using her method, a denial would be something like, there is no absence of life or substance or intelligence in omnipresent God. or there is no absence of life, substance, or intelligence in my idea of God. There is nothing to hate. That's my favorite one. There is no sin, sickness, or death. Now, when they use the word evil and the word sin, evil will show up later, they weren't talking about what we consider sins and evil now. Evil to them was colds and little things that happened. It wasn't this big, I don't know, maybe it was Hitler that brought us into the big picture of evil, right? But back then, evils were in the 1840s, 50s, 60s, evils were the little things that happened, the little evils of the world. And so that's what she talks about there. She also has, there is no evil in my good. There is no evil mixed in with my good, which I've always really liked as well. So, has anybody used the affirmation process, just affirmations, and then not had it work? Everybody has used affirmations and they've always worked. I want to sit down and talk to you. So the whole idea here is that our immediate reaction is to want to reject whatever thing that's happening that we perceive as negative. And so the best thing that we can do, honestly, is to step back and go, okay, I see you. Now, a lot of people say that they use the word accept. All right, we got to accept what's going on. And my brain doesn't like that word, and so I change it to acknowledge. In my brain, accepting something, again, means I have to keep it. So if I'm going to acknowledge something, I see you, I know you're there, but I don't have to keep you. You're not permanent. So if you start affirming things, though, before you start denying them, before you start clearing out your mental closet, so to speak, it'll still work, but you're going to have to work a lot harder. Because everything whatever you think about is really, really what you believe. Or more specifically, and we were talking about this afternoon, is that your beliefs are the things that you think about the most. And most of us don't even know what we're thinking about most of the time because we're on autopilot, right? So denials are a process by which you clear out the negative thinking that you have about something. And it's not magical all the time. I mean, there'll be times when you'll have to do denial affirmation, until you start changing your mind starts changing about what you're dealing with. Because how easy is it really to force an ingrained belief out of your head? You can't force it, but you can talk to it and you can say, this is not what I want. How many people are familiar with our cue cards? Okay. When we read that cue card, what are we doing? We are doing exactly denial and affirmation. We are saying, okay, yeah, these are the things that I do, and I have my moments of being like this, but this is not who I am. And we turn the card over and we say, this is who I am. This is who I came to be. It is the perfect example of denial and affirmation. So if you're sitting here thinking, what, you have that perfect example right there. Denials are not necessarily easy to write. I sat down and played with it, and I played with it in my Thursday morning group a little bit, and we didn't put a lot of time and energy into it, but I could tell people were going, well, I'm so used to writing affirmations. How do I write it a different way? And they actually go together. So you say, this is not what I want. This is in my consciousness, but it's not what I want. This is what I want. And so you're releasing and then attracting, releasing and then attracting. Does that make sense? By the way, if you have questions, you can, holler them out. So, acknowledge the situation, because it's like if someone is just diagnosed with a malady, or if you lose a job, or if something happens, you really can't pretend it didn't happen. You can't pretend that it's not there. So you say, all right, okay, here's the situation. Well, what do I do about it? How do I work with it? Emma Curtis Hopkins says, the heart may still cling to its misery while it is observing happiness. Here is where the office of denial comes in. Denial is elimination. So even in the middle of feeling pretty icky about some things or worried about some things, you can work with denials. Now, I was asked just 2 days ago, and when we were talking about this very thing, and that person prepared me for tonight, and I'm very grateful. They said, but you're just sitting there telling lies. It's all lies. None of it's true. It might feel like that, because if you're looking at a situation, a fact on the material plane, something's gone the way you don't want it to, and you start to deny that this is the truth, it feels like a lie. It doesn't feel right, because it's there. I can see it. The water's leaking in all over the place. I can't pretend like my water heater just hasn't broken and is flooding my house. I can't pretend that. But I can think about what the truth of the situation is. And I can put a lot of drama into it, or I can say, oh, my water heater broke, and these are things that I can do to fix it. Well, it comes the same way with affirmations when you're trying to make changes in the way you think about things. So you say, this doesn't have any power over me. And that is the crux of denial, right there. This situation is a fact, but it is not the truth, because the truth is never changing. It is here, it is now, it is within me. It is a fact, and it doesn't have any power over me. I simply have to deal with it. Does that make sense? Does that? Okay. Emma Curtis Hopkins also said, all science has affirmation and negation. In math, you subtract what you don't want. In geology, you say, this is not igneous rock, this is a different kind of rock. So if you really think about it, we are always doing denial. We're always doing affirmation. This is not what I want, this is what I want. This is not okay, this is okay. And we only get confused is when we try to put it into some sort of formal spiritual teaching and then think we have to believe it immediately. And we don't have to believe it immediately. We're working on ourselves. We're working to change our minds. So think about a situation in your life right now. Now, I'm going to walk you through trying to think about how you would write a denial and an affirmation. And at some point, if you're willing to share, that's great. And do not feel like you have to, because this is all very personal. But think about, just for a moment, something that is going on in your life. And on the back of that sheet, there is a place to write. Go ahead and turn it over. And by the way, another thing that Emma Curtis Hopkins said was that you show as much wisdom in denial as you do in affirmation. Because you're not, oh, I'm sorry, I should have asked if everyone had gotten their sheets. So think of something that's going on. How would you write a denial for that? Now, there's some examples on the front of the sheet. These are, Emma Curtis Hopkins said that there are 5 universal denials and 5 universal affirmations, and they're pretty intense. And remember, she was writing around the turn, well, actually, she was writing in the 1870s, 80s, and 90s, so vocabulary and the way people talked back then was a little more official. And also, she worked very hard at trying to sound scientific, because the scientific method was really in, and she was a woman trying to teach all this stuff to men. So when you look at her language, try to keep that in mind. But if you look at the way she phrased things, and those are the universal denials, it's like there's no bad in my life. There are situations and there are circumstances, but she always says there's no bad. There's no evil. Again, using the way she uses the word evil. There was no matter, because this was a time when we were very much into mind over matter. And I think like mind over heart at this point, or heart over mind at this point. There was no absence of life. So how would you write, just play with it a little bit. There's no right or wrong here. How would it work for you to write a denial about whatever situation you're thinking about? And I'll give you a couple of minutes to just think about that and write. So I'll even be quiet up here. There's a big space to write on the back, by the way. Okay, so what does that feel like? Anybody feel sharing? What does it feel like?
I am struggling with denial. I've always felt like I was good with affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at these, I kind of live these. So I feel like they're done more without concretely, that it's sort of internalized, the denials. But to write one, I'm really struggling.
And that's okay.
Phrase it.
And that's okay because everybody has a different way of working. And so if you already have a way of working, then that works for you, and that's good. The reason I'm doing this course is I have had so many people walk around really confused about it. But you have a method, and there may be other people. The other part of it is that when you're writing a negation, you're writing a denial, what you're really doing is pushing back on an old belief. And sometimes old beliefs don't want to get pushed back on. Who else might want to share? What does it feel like to try to do this? Hang on, Cindy, Kathy. It's on.
I too am having a hard time putting it into words. And like she said, you're good with affirmations, but I can't even know where to begin. I'm trying to work with one particular thing that's happening within my family, and I can't even begin to know how or where to begin or what to call it or how to write it. I have no idea.
Okay, so what if you simply started with whatever this is, blah, blah, has no power over me? Just start very basically. See, and part of this is because we make it, and I do it too, we all make it hard and complicated, right?
And
That's the denial.
Yes, that is denial. This does, because the affirmation would be, this thing has power over me and it's going to get me. That's an affirmation. Elaine?
And we've been talking about this in staff meetings, so we're a little bit ahead. And I have to admit that when Deborah talked about doing this, and it made me focus on affirmation and denials, and some of you may know I'm a Q coach here. And so the only thing I could come up with, and then it was like, oh, I'm just going to use that, is what we call the Q process is the art and practice of no one and nothing is against me. Because then for me, when I was just thinking through just trying to do this exercise over 2 or 3 things that I know I'm struggling with, I could say no one or nothing is against me, and it would fit for any of those, whether it's my health or a relationship. There's not a
Right.
thing that is against me.
Right. And this is why of the 5 universal denials that Emma Curtis Hopkins uses, and by the way, I love her, as you can tell, is that there is nothing to hate. Because if you really think about it, when you're feeling that resistance, there's that kind of thing going on. And if you just start with there is nothing to hate, or this has no power over me, or I'm not going to let this get me. You start at this very basic. I remember when I first got into metaphysics, I was at a Unity church in Phoenix. I was 26, 25 years old, and I was going through divorce. And I knew I needed to forgive. Well, I couldn't quite get there, so I started off thinking and saying out loud, I forgive you for being a jerk. I forgive you for being a jerk. I forgive you for being a jerk. And it made me laugh because it was so silly. But I got to where I could say, I forgive you, and I finally got to where I could leave off jerk. But I had to start there, and I did use the word jerk, honestly. It was very clean. But that's where I had to start with that. And it worked for me, partly because it made me laugh. So you can even write something silly, something that gets you out of that cycle of, oh my goodness, this is so horrible. Because as you're doing that, you're giving it power. It's having power over you. And so to stop that so that you can move into a clean affirmation. Yes, ma'am.
So, how is, at work, we're doing Stephen Covey's 7 Habits, and so the first one's being proactive. And so I've always seen affirmations as a way of being proactive. So you take a look at a situation, I don't want that. So
Exactly.
what am I going to do about it?
Exactly.
And that's kind of, yeah. So I wondered how the two were the same or different.
I don't want that as a denial. I mean, all of these teachings are using different vocabularies. They're all the same. And the truth is honestly, everything, the only difference between a denial and an affirmation is there's something that you repeat and you say to yourself to help you change your mind about something. The denial is clearing out. It's saying, I don't want this anymore. I'm letting it go. The affirmation is saying, come on in and take residence. Come on in. I want you. I love you. Does that help? Yeah. Cindy. And then Betsy.
I'm kind of getting confused with this.
Okay.
So is forgiveness, is that a denial?
No.
And then I don't, because you mentioned something
Oh.
about forgiveness.
Well, it was a prayer actually, but in some respects maybe it was a denial because I was calling him a jerk at the end of the sentence. So I was saying I forgive you for being a jerk, I had to clear that thinking out of my mind. I had to clear the thinking about him being a jerk out of my mind before I could actually start affirming that I could forgive him and let it go and move on. So before I could affirm I am free, happy, and clear, I had to let all of that go. And
Affirmations that don't work
when you haven't cleared out, yes. Yeah, because what you're doing when you're doing affirmation after affirmation is sort of like you're just compacting and you're pressing down all of the negative feelings and you're not dealing with them. I knew we'd get there. So as allowing yourself to clear out, it's like cleaning your mental closet. There's a woman who used to talk about what's in your believery. I always thought it was just like this little pantry over to the side where I hung up all my beliefs, and I'd go in there and look in my believery once in a while. Yeah, I mean, it worked for me, And so as long as I walked around thinking that this man was a jerk, I was hurting myself. And so I cleared out that idea, and then I was able to affirm, I release you, as you release me, I let you go, I move into my new life. So
I do understand a lot about letting go of the past,
Mm-hmm.
letting go of those thoughts and those feelings. But can you give more examples what you mean by denial? That's where I'm kind of getting stuck.
Okay, let me think about that, and let's go on to Betsy, and then I'll...
So I think it ends up a little bit like a word game. It really is. You're playing with the words that your mind can start to believe.
Exactly.
Okay, so I started with, there's no abnormal condition in my body. No, that's a lie. I didn't want to, then I feel like I'm lying.
Right.
Because, there is. I know that. So what I had to get to is, how do I qualify that comfortably enough, without sounding trite or overly pushy about my words, that I'm comfortable. So I ended up with, let's see, okay, might as well read it. There is no disease in my heart that has dominion or that can diminish me.
Perfect.
So,
Perfect.
So in a sense, then you tell the lie in a way, but you qualify it by denying its power over you, over your thoughts, over your beliefs, over who you are and hope to be. So you are playing in a little bit of a word game, but doesn't it open you to new possibilities that way?
Well, it does. And yes, we are always playing word games in a way. Because, I finally discovered, James said in his talk a few weeks ago here, that every minister starts to find their thing. And I finally figured out what my thing is. And it's like we use vocabulary all the time to communicate with each other. That's the only thing we really have. Body language, but words are what we use. And so I can stand up here, and I can say the word denial. Everybody in this room has a different response to that word and a different definition of it. And so my thing is to get people to think about how they think about that word, so that you can develop your own relationship with it and move forward, and not be stuck with what you think everybody else means by that word. And so another denial is, you're simply saying, this isn't permanent. I think that maybe that is what it really comes down to. This is not permanent. This is something that's going on right now, but it is not permanent. I'm not going to let it run me. So it's not, there is, and then you are also training your mind to think about the fact that all there is God. So there is no absence of life in my body. I'm not saying I'm not sick. I'm just saying there's no absence of life in my body, and which is true, which is not a lie. And then you say, I am healthy, whole, and happy, or whatever it is that works for you. And this, again, all came up because I have a friend who, well, she's a friend because she puts up with me. And one day I went to lunch with her, and she was really, really serious this day. She was intense. And she's sitting there, and she's saying, I do my affirmations like this. And it's, I don't want this, blah, blah, blah. And then she would do the affirmation. And she said, and I had someone tell me that you never, ever, ever put anything negative in an affirmation. And she was distraught. And I did the only thing a professional would do, and I just burst out laughing. Whereupon she completely relaxed because she knows me. And I said, there's actually a formal process called denial and affirmation. And she was doing exactly that without knowing it. That was what really got me started on this whole thing, and that was a few years ago. And she stayed my friend even though she knew I was laughing, not at her, but that what this person was saying was preposterous. Because we all have negative ideas. We all have negative thoughts. What better way to get rid of them is to say them and then clean them up with an affirmation. I don't like this situation. It doesn't feel good. Whatever. I'm not going to let it have, Claudia. Microphone. Thank you.
So I'm wanting to see if I have this right. For my denial. My brother's angry words doesn't penetrate me.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Or, I am never. You could even take it out to I am never hurt by other people's angry words. There's a lot of ways that you can, and then you say I am. And put, so you do the denial, then you say, I am this positive, happy, I am strong. Or in that case, I'd say, I am strong, I stay in my center, I am God's child, or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, that's the affirmation. Mary.
affirmations and denials are like some of the first things you ever learn in unity teachings. That Merle Fillmore went to the lecture where she heard, "You are a child of God, therefore you do not inherit sickness." And so she took that to heart. She did denials and affirmations and gradually healed herself of tuberculosis. And that's something you learn right at the very beginning, that there is no power of evil. There is one power and one presence in my life, in the world, in the universe, God the good omnipotent. So this is very, very basic unity.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to Unity Church and you take classes, these are some of the first things you learn. And so I encourage people to read the Unity books and to attend some classes, because that way you really get these lessons and make them a part of your life from the beginning. And so there is no power of evil. There is evil in the world, but it has no power
Over you, yes.
unless you let it, you know.
Exactly, exactly. And so Mary's right. This is basic unity teachings. At the same time, people get really confused because the word denial has so much power in our culture. You're in denial. You're not dealing with it. So.
I hope this is correct. I'm worried about a young family member. So I just say, I will not worry about so-and-so not getting her life together. I know that's, is that a denial?
It's a denial. I would say in some respects it's sort of, you're trying to force yourself not to think about it. Mm-hmm. So there is no power in the universe that can blah, blah, blah. Try that.
So I had a similar experience to Betsy, where I started off saying there is no illness in my body, and then I wrote a couple more sentences, with the last one being there, because I don't believe that.
Exactly.
Then I wrote, there is no limit to my power to heal. Now,
that's perfect.
Is that a
That's
denial?
perfect. That's yes. Yes. Because you're saying there is no limit. There is no absence of life. You're saying there is no limit. So yes, that's a denial. Because you believe that you're doing this because you believe there's a limit. Mm-hmm. So what this exercise of doing writing denials does is it helps you see what it is you believe. As you both wrote this, you're going, oh, I don't believe that. Oh, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And so there is no limit.
There's no limit to my power to heal.
Yeah, that's a perfect Emma denial.
Okay,
yes,
good.
Because she says there is no absence of life. There is
Yeah.
no absence of substance.
So here's what's coming up for me. When in my work with the music, I'm often tweaking lyrics. And I'm often thinking about, the NLP thing, the neuro-linguistic programming. And so just to put a negation in front of a word in some circles is like not a place you want to go to. But you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. And
so like for me to say there is no limit already, then no limit. Well, no. Yeah.
But you're not stopping there.
Not
you're
stopping
saying there is no limit to
My power.
To my power to heal.
Yeah.
Then you do the affirmation, because you do them together. This is a system. So you do the denial, and then you do the affirmation. So you clean out your closet, and then you put in the new clothes,
Okay.
so to speak. Does that make more sense? Yes. See, it's not an easy thing. I mean, you get taught, you can learn this in a basic class, but it's not an easy thing. And it's like, if you stopped with the denial, yeah, you're living in the negative, but you're saying there's no limit. And then once you convince yourself that there's no limit, and remember, you could do these affirmations for a while. It may happen instantly, and it may happen in 5 years. We all know this. It doesn't always, because our belief systems are so ingrained. Mine aren't, but everybody, no. Okay, I think we have time for like one
I'm
more.
still kind of a little bit confused because you're saying that this is the denial. There is no limit to my power to heal.
Right.
But that's positive.
Sounds like an affirmation.
Yes, it sounds like a positive thing to me.
But what
Denial
you're,
is
okay,
not
I
positive.
agree with you. It does sound like an affirmation, but what you are saying is, I am not, okay, here's the difference. There is no limit to the power of in my body to heal, or you can force yourself to believe, I am unlimited and I will heal now. Which one are you going to believe first? That denial is going to help you take that leap over to saying, yes, I can do this. Because we all think in terms of absence, and we all think in terms of limitation most of the time. So I'm saying I'm not limited.
But that,
I'm denying that there's a limit to anything that.
because you're
Yeah.
denying it that, so that,
Yes,
yeah. So
yeah.
when you say that, you're, yeah, and you're denying that there's a limit.
You're denying that there's a limit.
So
And
you
then
say
you're
it that way.
so then you are free to say, I am healthy, holy, happy, whatever. So it's clearing out. And as we've seen, and this is the best part about it, if you sit and you write a denial, it helps you figure out where your belief is, what you're really believing in this situation. That's probably the best part of it, is to do that.
Positive in your affirmations is that will cause your subconscious to work to make it so it's not a lie, because you're declaring the truth in advance. And that makes your subconscious work to make that the truth.
Right, and that's what Apollo was doing, is she's declaring the truth. There is no limit here. And so she's starting to change her mind about it. And she says it enough, there's no limit, I am, and then I love affirmations that start with I am, the I am declaration. So there is no limit to blah, 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 I am, and then you go with the affirmation. And technically, I guess it's all affirmation because you're affirming all of it. But the denial part is really important. And if you listen to most people, even if they've been through every Unity class, they don't say denial and affirmation. They say affirmation and denial, and that's backwards. Clean out the refrigerator and then put the new stuff in. Okay, does that make sense?
Hi. So basically I'm kind of a visual person, and what I'm kind of seeing is that you like have this hole, and it's filled up with water, and you're bailing out the water, but then you've got to put something in the hole so the water doesn't run back in.
Yes, yeah, exactly,
So,
exactly, yeah.
So I've been working on trying to get into shape, and I find myself a lot looking in the mirror going, I really don't like this, I really don't like that. So basically what I have is my body composition is not immutable, and there is nothing to dislike about my body.
Perfect. Perfect. There is nothing to hate.
You know what just came up to me, Deborah, is we all have limiting beliefs.
We do.
Right? So the denial is denying, as identifying what your limiting belief is, whether it's somebody has power over me, or and I mean it's tricky. This is one of those where, yeah. But it's really kind of cool because until you acknowledge what that limiting belief is and take the oomph out of it by denying that limiting belief and then affirming truth with a capital T. James always says there's truth with T, or reality, little r, or truth, little t. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah. Eric Butterworth has the best definition for me personally, and he says there's facts and there's truth. Truth is with a capital T, it's never changing, it's what is. It's that part of you that is inside that never changes, that place where if you really think about where did I come from and where did I start and where did I end, and you can't figure that out, that's your truth. And facts are all this messy stuff we've got going on here, running into each other and having our incidents and circumstances and hoo-ha-has that go on. Those are facts. And they change, and they change, and they change, and they change. And you may not like it, but nothing's really ever broken. It's simply you don't want to think that way anymore. Anything else? I don't know if we're going to have, well, we can do a short meditation. Yes. Well, I don't want to end this conversation, but
All right. Working this, I didn't stop at the first denial. There's something else underneath the first denial. I went to another one and another one. And then it was like peeling the onion. There's something underneath it, and it's not really the denial. It's something else that I'm denying. I started with, there's no necessity to change anybody. Or then it went to, wait, I'm trying to square the circle, make something perfect that I can't make perfect. There's no need to fix anything. Everything's already fixed. And then it's like, then why am I doing this? Am I holding on to unhappiness for a reason? And so, like, what am I doing with this unhappiness? So I'm trying to look underneath that, and I'm back to what you said about core beliefs and my childhood and things that are saying that I'm not worthy to be happy. And this can keep going and going and going. So I thank you for this. This is wonderful stuff.
you're welcome. And also, this is why, can you think about why we might be, even if we've learned about it, would we be avoiding denials? Is because they open up the can. And we get to start looking at how we're thinking about something, and then we get uncomfortable with ourselves. And it got really quiet in here where you were working on the denial part of it. And in the group on Thursday morning, when we just kind of touched on it, everybody was as confused as you were. And I think we ended up being confused because we didn't take a lot of time with it. I've learned a lot from you. I'm going to take it back to the Thursday class, and we're going to walk through it again. But Thursday morning, I have a discussion group from 10 to 11:30, and this is sort of what we do.
Yeah.
Only, I mean, we're going through the Beatitudes right now, but it's really a forum to talk about spiritual stuff, and we follow all kinds of bunny trails, and it's a pretty fun group. There's several people from the group here tonight, my groupies. Ooh, groupies, that was a bad...
I am free, I am unlimited, there are no chains that bind me.
There are no chains that bind me. That's a denial. I am free and I am unlimited. That's an affirmation.
Nice.
So has that, yes, sir. Bill. That is, yes.
This is all self-reflective. I don't have this, I have this. What if we have a Jesus Christ who does everything and can do everything? So when we say we all have limited beliefs, if we could hook on to an unlimited belief that there's something that is unlimited, that just, okay? And that's what the Christ consciousness is. Jesus saves, Jesus saves. Don't worry about it, Jesus saves.
Except that Jesus had his own challenges too. And if you really look at a lot of what Jesus said, there's denials and affirmations in there too. So, you know...
Yeah, but if we can discover something we can dump all the garbage on,
but that's
then
not what
we can avoid this. We all have limited beliefs. The instant I have a limited belief, I say, Jesus, take care of that person.
Well, we can do that, but that's not what we do in Bill. So because what we're doing here is we're learning to clear our own beliefs, our own thoughts, and this is a system. One of my favorite things that Ernest Holmes talked about was he said he didn't call this a religion, he called it a spiritual system. Denial and affirmation is a process, it's a system that you can use to work your way through things. It's, you know, and it might be easy, it might be as simple as, oh, I've got a flat tire. I am not going to let this get me. I'm not going to let it have power over me. I'm going to call AAA, and I'm going to be happy to wait 4 hours until they come. Because I can sit in my car and play games on my, iPhone or whatever. We don't have to, and it takes practice. It absolutely takes practice to be able to do all of this. But this is a process, and if it scares you, it can be very uncomfortable. Bill is right. This is very self-reflective stuff, and it's much easier to just walk around doing affirmation after affirmation. But I have had so many people outside the SLC and people I talk with, and they say, "I really want to believe this stuff. I really want it to work, but it doesn't work for me." And then we get into the conversation, and part of it is, how are you thinking about things? Another part of that conversation is, and this same friend, one day I said to her, was going through a lot, and she, by the way, she says, you can talk about me all you want. I don't give her name, but she doesn't care. And she was having really serious financial difficulties for several years. And one day I said, well, is there any possibility at all that you might feel like you don't deserve anything more than you've got right now? No, that's not it. So about a year later, we were having another conversation. I'm very careful about how often I say these things. And I said it, is there a possibility? No, that's not it. The third year, I said it. I didn't say it. She called me up one day and she said, you know what? I'm starting to think that maybe I don't think I deserve it. She came to it in her own time. Even though I had said it a few times, it didn't until she could get there and realize that she felt so undeserving, she didn't know. She didn't deserve to know that she was undeserving. And she came up to that point. And when she got there, her life started changing. Her life started changing very, very rapidly after that because she was able to work with that. So this is a process, a way to look at what your beliefs are. Next year, I'm probably going to do a little workshop, that workshop I was going to do last year or sometime this year, called Aligning Your Beliefs, Aligning Thoughts and Beliefs. It has some similarities to Q, but it's not nearly as deep and involved, and it's a good companion. And so we didn't write the affirmation, but I think you guys have the drift of that, right? Yeah. Okay. We have 10 minutes, which means it's going to be a really short meditation. Would you rather continue talking for another 5 minutes, or would you rather do a 5-minute meditation? Everybody for meditation, raise your hand. Everybody who wants to keep talking.
I want to share a little something.
And Paula wants to share something, so that answers that question.
I'm just excited to share it. So we've been reading in our staff meeting, we've been reading from an Abraham Hicks book.
Yes.
What's the title of the book again? The
Power of Deliberate Intention. Yeah.
So the reading that we had about it's not what you're thinking on the thought, but how you feel about the thoughts you're thinking.
Yes.
So it's more about the heart connection, because you can affirm things intellectually all you want, but what are you really feeling about it?
Absolutely. And when you're not feeling about it, when it feels like you're telling lies, the affirmations aren't going to do anything for you, right? So if you're telling a lie about, if you start out feeling like you're telling a lie that something's not, you're not saying that it's not true, you're just saying that it doesn't have power over you. And that's the important part. Now, it might have power over you for a while. You're allowed to have the emotional reaction. You're allowed to kick rocks, but don't stay there. That's the part. I mean, we're human. We're always going to be human, and we're always going to have emotional reactions. And the difference is do you stay in that emotional reaction for a little bit or a long time? The very best thing I ever saw on Facebook before I abandoned it was a little thing that said, was it a bad day or was it a bad 5 minutes you milked all day? And I know for a fact that no one in this room has ever done that. But that's the point. And it takes some time. And you might have a thing that happens, family stuff in particular, that tweaks you, and you're tweaked for like 3 weeks. And then the next time it comes around, you're tweaked for 2 weeks. And the next time it comes around, you're maybe sort of tweaked for a week. And then eventually you don't tweak at all. But it's working with this process that helps you decide what you want to give your energy to and what you are allowing to have power over you.
That's the key word right there. It's making the shift from why to
From why to what? Yes. Yeah. It's like, what do I want my life to be like? Yeah. Why now? Why me? Yeah. We've had the conversation on Thursday mornings about We don't have to do this. None of us has to be here doing this. God is not sitting up there in the little book writing down who's coming to church on Sunday and who's doing that. But everybody I know who comes here is doing it because of their own quality of life. My life is so much better here than it was before I was in this, right? So it's all about quality of life and how we treat each other, how we treat other people. So you guys rock. This is amazing. Thank you for playing. Thank you for coming out to play. Phew. Okay. Okay. When Gordon.
What was the name of that book again?
The Amazing Power of Deliberate Intention. All of their books pretty much say the same thing in different ways, just so you know. So if you get an Abraham Hicks book, you've got the Abraham Hicks philosophy and teaching. So, all right, I had intended for us to have a nice meditation to go along with this, but we used up all of our time, and I think it was worth it. Thank you so very much. And of course, we have our time of love offering. And we know that everything that we share and we give comes around. We support this place, we support this program, we support groups outside of SLC, and we do this in love. And so let us say our offering blessing together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God. The Amazing Power of Deliberate Intention by Abraham Hicks and Company. Thank you. You can come this way. So what do you think of the micro class? Okay, so in July, we're going to be talking about illusion versus reality, because I'm all tweaked about how we use those words. So we'll be doing this, a very similar thing. It'll be a micro class. So I hope to see you all again. It's going to be the third week in July. I don't remember what the date is offhand, but we will remind you. So let us stand and share the prayer for protection. I'm not sure how much of a circle we can make here. There's usually enough of us that we can try. So everybody's connected here. I am always so impressed and so filled with joy to be with adults who will take the time to do this work and will open themselves up. I just thank you. It is a huge gift to me. Let's join in the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The light of God follows us. How about we start over? The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And may the joys of the world go with you. Thank you, guys. It'd be